Imagine that you are in a prison, okay? You're in a prison where every single one of your movement is watched. You're not allowed to interact with anyone. You are not allowed to... And let's start with, you were born in this prison. You have no education. You cannot even play soccer or anything for that matter. And someone comes to you and tells you, hey, there is a way you can be free. There's a way that you can go out, do whatever, none of your movements will be watched. You are basically all free, but with a condition of, after a couple of years, you're gonna have to come back and live your life in solidarity again. What would you do? Would you take the freedom, or would you remain in the prison? Okay, I'm so glad we talked about this. Please tell me what's the plan? Would you guys like? I, for one, would want to, and I just run away. Never find me, because I'm not coming back to the fucking prison. Also, not only that, once you taste freedom, you're gonna chase freedom, because now you know how it tastes. It's just like when you try something and you taste it and you're like, that's delicious, you're gonna keep like, you know. That being said, the book we're talking about is The Pearl That Broke Its Shell. So again, why did I ask that question? The question comes from the history. Sadly, this happens a lot of places. And I was just realizing how even the country I come from, that this was just practiced this is practiced. It's just we don't have jailers standing with a whip whipping us down. That's the only difference. Those jailers are actually our male guardians. Now that I said that out loud, let's go back to Afghanistan, which is where this book is written. It's based off the experiences in Afghanistan and Bacha Posh. So, in Afghanistan, when women don't have any sons, right? Because if you have a son, clearly you're doing something right and you have provided an heir. You are extending the generation. You're like really, like it's not about like the hormones. It has nothing to do with stress that affects, like your egg, has nothing to do with nothing. It's all about luck. And if you're a good woman, you can have a son. And if you don't have a son, well, you're fucked. And I'm saying that because when you have daughters, you're weak. And also, if your husband dies, you will not be able to live anymore because you cannot take care of yourself. You cannot go out for grocery. You cannot go out, period. You can't do anything, right? Because you're a woman. And if you have daughters and only daughters and no son, and your husband isn't really helpful, then you might just die. And your kids might just die. Everyone might just die, vanish. And so to help that out, what's done is the only solution in this horrible situation is to turn one of your daughters into a boy. By that I mean they will cut their daughter's hair off, make their daughters or the girl into a boy with the clothing, with the name, with everything for a couple of years. Let that girl experience how being able to go to school and get education is like, how playing around with kids outside is like, how going to grocery and getting onions and potatoes is like, and how having belly filled because now you can go and get food, and now your mother can cook food, and now your family's fed, how all of that is like, until you are a woman again. And why would that happen? That would happen when you are obvious, like you're getting your curves, you have hit puberty, and now it's obvious that you're a woman, so you're gonna have to turn back to being a woman and get caged again. And married off. So you can do what you were always supposed to do, give birth and wow. So, well, that's what the reality really is for many people, and that's what we cover here. Okay, so let's start with chapter 1, because how else? The pearl that broke its shell. The reason why I'm reading it to you guys is because it is so well written. Some of the quotes, like I could not keep this to myself and be like, oh, you know what, like I'll just tell the story. No, I had to share everything from here. Everything. Okay. Chapter 1, Rahima. Shala stood by our front door, the bright green metal rusting on the edges. She craned her neck. Parveen and I rounded the corner and saw the relief in her eyes. We couldn't be late again. Parveen shot me a look, and we picked up our hurried pace. We did the best we could without running. Rubble soles slapped against the road and raised puffs of dusty smoke. The hems of our skirt flapped against our ankles. My headscarf clung to the bead of sweat on my forehead. I guessed Hermine was doing the same, since it hadn't yet flown away. Damn them! It was their fault, those boys, with their shameless grins and tattered pants. This wasn't the first time they'd made us late. We ran past the doors, blue, purple, burgundy, spots of color on clay canvas. Shala waved towards us.
Hurry!
She hissed, frantically. Panting, we followed her through the front door. Metal clanged against the doorframe.
Parveen! What did you do that for?
Sorry. I didn't think it would be that loud.
Shala rolled her eyes, as did I. Parveen always let the door slam.
What took you so long? Didn't you take the street behind the bakery?
We couldn't, Shala. That's where he was standing. We had gone the long way around the marketplace, avoiding the bakery where the boys loitered, their shoulders hunched and their eyes scouting the hockey jungle that was our village. Beside pickup games of street soccer, this was the main sport for school-age boys. Watching girls. They hung around waiting for us to come out of our school. Once off school ground, a boy might dart between cars and pedestrians to tail the girl who'd caught his eye. Following her helped him stake his claim. This is my girl, it told the others, and there's only room for one shadow here. Today, my 12-year-old sister Shala was the magnet of unwanted attention. The boys meant to be flattering, but it frightened the girl, since people would have loved to assume that she'd sought out the attention. There just weren't many ways for boys to entertain themselves. Shala, where's Rohila? I whispered. My heart was pounding as we tiptoed around the back of the house.
She's taken some food for the neighbor's house. Mother John cooked some eggplants for them. I think someone died.
Died? My stomach tightened and I turned my attention back to following Shala's footsteps.
Where's Mother John?
Parveen said, her voice a nervous hush.
She's putting the baby to sleep,
Shala said, turning toward us.
So you better not make too much noise or she'll know you're just coming home now.
Parveen and I froze. Shala's face fell as she looked at our widened eyes. She whipped around to see Mother John standing behind her. She had come out of the back door and was standing in the small paved courtyard behind the door.
Your mother is very much aware of exactly when you girls have gotten home, and she is also very much aware of what kind of example your older sister is setting for you.
Water break. Her arms were folded tightly across her chest. Shala's head hung in shame. Parveen and I tried to avoid Mother John's glare.
Where have you been?
How badly I wanted to tell her the truth. A boy lucky enough to have bicycle had followed Shala, riding past us, and then circling back and forth. Shala paid no attention to him. When I whispered that he was looking at her, she hushed me, as if speaking it would make it true. On the third pass, he got too close. He looped ahead of us and came back in our direction. He raced down the dirt streets, slowing down as he neared us. Shala kept her eyes averted and tried to look angry. Parveen, watch out! Before I could push her out of the way, the cycling stalker's front wheel rolled over a metal can in the street. He veered left and right, then swerved to avoid the stray dog. The bicycle came across at us. The boy's eyebrows were raised. His mouth opened as he struggled to regain balance. He swiped Parveen before toppling over on the front steps of the dried goods shop.
Oh my God,
Parveen exclaimed, her voice loud and giddy.
Look at him! Knocked off his feet! Do you think he's hurt?
Shala said. She had her hand over her mouth as if she had never seen a sight so tragic. Parveen, your skirt! My eyes had moved from Shala's concerned face to the torn hem of Parveen's skirt. The jagged wire holding spokes of bicycle together had snagged Parveen's dress. It was her new school uniform, and instantly Parveen began to weep. We knew if Mother John told our father, he could keep us home instead of sending us to school. It happened before.
Why are you all silent? Only when I ask you something? Do you have anything to say for yourselves? You come home late and look like you were chasing dogs in the street.
Shala had spoken on our behalf plenty of times. Parveen was a basket of nerves, always, and could do nothing but fidget. I heard my voice before I knew what I was saying. Mother John, it was our fault. There was this boy on a bicycle and we ignored him, but he kept coming back and I even yelled at him. I told him he was an idiot if he didn't know his way home. Parveen let out a giggle. Mother John shot her a look.
Did he come near you?
She asked, turning to Shala.
No, Mother John. I mean, he was a few meters behind us. He didn't say anything.
Mother John sighed and brought her hands to her temple.
Fine, get inside and start your homework assignments. Let's see what your father says about this.
You're going to tell him? I cried out.
Of course I'm going to tell him.
She answered and spanked my backside as I walked past into the house.
We are not in the habit of keeping things from your father.
We whispered about what Father John would say when he came home. While we dug our pencils into our notebooks, Perveen had some ideas.
I think we should tell Father that our teachers know about those boys and that they have already gotten in trouble, so they won't be bothering us anymore.
Perveen suggested eagerly.
Perveen, that's not going to work. What are you going to say when Mother asks Khanem Behturi about it?
Shala, the voice of reason.
Well then, we could tell him that the boy said he was sorry and promised not to bother us again, or that we are going to find another way to get to school. Fine, Perveen, you tell him. I'm tired of talking for you anyway.
Perveen's not going to say anything. She only talks when no one's listening, I said.
Very funny, Rahima. You're so brave, aren't you? Let's see how brave you are when Father John comes home.
Granted, I wasn't a very brave 9-year-old. When it came time to face Father John, I kept my thoughts bottled behind my pursed lips. In the end, Father John decided to pull us out of school again. We begged and pleaded with Father John to let us return to school. One of Perveen's teacher, a childhood friend of Father John, even showed up at the house and tried to reason with our parents. Father John had relented in the past, but this time was different. He wanted us to go to school, but struggled with how to make that happen freely and safely. How would it look for his daughters to be chased by local boys for all to see? Awful.
If I had a son, this would not be happening. God damn it! Why do we have a house full of girls? Not one, not two, but 5 of them.
He would yell. Mother John would busy herself with housework, feeling the disappointment on her shoulders. His temper was worse these days. Mother John would tell us to hush and be respectful. She told us too many bad things had happened to Father John and that it had made him an angry man. She said if we all behaved, then he would go back to being normal soon. But it was getting harder and harder to remember a time when Father John wasn't angry and loud. Now that we were home, I was given extra chores of bringing the groceries from the store. My older sisters quarantined since they were older, noticeable. I was thus far invisible to boys and not a risk. Every 2 days, I stuffed a few bills from Mother John in the pouch that she had sewn into my dress, so I would have no excuse for losing them. I would wind my way through the narrow streets and walk 30 minutes to reach the market I loved. The store were bustling with activity. Women looked different now than they had a few years ago. Some wore long blue burqas, others wore long skirts and modest headscarves. The men all dressed like my father, long tunics with billowing pantaloons, colors as drab as our landscape. Little boys wore ornate caps with small round mirrors and gold scrolling. By the time I got there, my shoes were getting dusty, and I would resort to using my scarf as a filter for the clouds of dirt the hundreds of cars left in their wake. It was as if the hockey-colored landscape were dissolving into the air of our village. 2 weeks into our expulsion from school, the shop owners had gotten to know me. There were not many 9-year-old girls who would walk determinedly from shop to shop. And having watched my parents haggle prices down, I thought I would do the same. I would argue with the baker who tried to subcharge me double what I had seen him charge my mother. I bickered with the grocer, trying to tell me that the flour I wanted was important and thus subject to a subcharge. I pointed out that I could just as easily buy the same fancy flour from Aga Mirvas down the block and scoffed at the price he quoted me. He gritted his teeth and put the flour in the bag along with the other groceries, muttering words under his breath that no child could hear. Mother John was pleased to have my help with the market. She was busy enough with Sitara, who was just taking her first steps. Mother John had Perveen look after Sitara while she and Oh no. Oh no, 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 no. Oh no. Oh no, I'm just seeing this. You guys see this? You guys see this? Oh no. Whatever. Steps. Mother John had Perveen look after Sitara while she had Shala take care of the household chores of dusting, sweeping, and preparing the night's meal. In the afternoon, Mother John made us all sit down with our books and notebooks and complete the homework she assigned us. For Shala, the days were isolating and difficult. She longed to see her friends and talk with her teacher. Shala's strengths were her intuition and her intelligence. She wasn't at the very top of her class, but she usually charmed her teachers just enough to put her onto the short list of star pupils. She was average looking, but put extra care into her appearance. She would spend at least 5 minutes brushing her hair every night since someone told her it would make her locks grow longer. Shala's face was what people would call pleasant, not beautiful or memorable, but her personality made her glow. People looked at her and couldn't help but smile. Polite and proper, she was a favorite in school. She had a way of looking at you and making you feel important. In front of family and friends, Shala made Mother John proud as she would speak maturely and inquire after each family member.
How's Farzana John doing? It's been so long since I've seen her. Please do tell her I was asking about her.
She would say. Grandmothers would nod in approval, praising Mother John for raising such a respectable girl. Perveen was another story. She was striking. Her eyes were not the mud brown color the rest of us had. Instead, hers were hazel gray, blend that made you forget what it was that you were going to say. Her hair hung around her face in wavy locks with natural luster. She was undeniably the best looking girl in our whole extended family, but she was completely lacking in social skills. If Mother John's friends stopped by, Perveen would shrink into a corner, busying herself with folding and refolding a tablecloth. If she could manage to escape before company made it into the room, even better. Nothing was more of relief to her than avoiding the traditional three-kiss greeting. Me too. She kept her answers brief and all the while kept her eyes on the nearest escape route. Perveen!
Please, Hala Lenoma is asking you a question. Can you please turn around? Those plants do not need to be watered at this very moment.
What Perveen lacked in social skills, she more than made up for in artistic ability. She was masterful with pencil and paper. Graphite turned into visuals in her hand. Wrinkled faces, an injured dog, a house too damaged to repair. She had a gift, an ability to show you what you did not see, even though Your eyes grace the same sight as hers. She could sketch a masterpiece in minutes, but washing dishes could take hours.
Parveen is from another world.
Mother John would say.
She's a different kind of girl.
What good is that going to do to her? She's going to have to survive and make her way through this world.
Father John would retort. But he loved her drawings and kept a pile of them at his bedside to flip through from time to time. The other problem with Parveen was that she'd been born with a bad hip. Someone had told Mother John she must be lying on her side too much when she was pregnant. From the time Parveen started to crawl, it was obvious something was off. It took her much longer to learn to walk, and to this day she hasn't lost her limb. Father John had taken her to a doctor when she was 5 or 6, but they said it was too late. Then there was me. I didn't mind the expulsion as much as my sisters. I suppose this was because it gave me opportunity to venture out on my own without 2 older sisters to chastise me or insist I hold their hand as we crossed the street. Finally, I had freedom. Even more than my sisters, Mother John needed help with errands, and lately it was impossible to depend on Father John for anything. She would ask him to pick up some things from the market on his way home, and inevitably he would forget, then curse her for having an empty pantry. But if she went to the bazaar by herself, he went into an even worse rage. From time to time, Mother John asked the neighbors to pick up an item or 2 for her, but she tried not to do that often, knowing they already whisper about the peculiar way Father John had of walking up and down the street, his hands gesturing widely as he explained something to the birds. My father needed to take a special medicine, and that was why he sometimes acted strangely. At home, I could not help but talk about my adventures in the outside world. It bothered Shala more than Parveen, who was content with her pencils and papers. I think tomorrow I'll pick up some roasted chickpeas from the market. I have few coins. If you like, I could bring you some, Shala. Shala sighed and shifted Sithara from one hip to another. She looked like a young mother.
Forget it. I don't want any. Just go and finish the chores, Rahima. I'm sure you're just dawdling out there. In no rush to come home, I bet.
I'm not dawdling. I go and do the errands that Mother John tells me to do. But never mind, I'll see you later. It wasn't so much that I want my sisters to be envious. It was more that I wanted to celebrate my new privilege. To come and go, to wander through the shops without my sister's supervision. If I had a little more tact, I would have found another way to express myself. But my loud mouth caught Khala Shaima's attention. Maybe there was a high purpose to my insensitivity. Khala Shaima was my mother's sister, her older sister. Mother John was closer to her than anyone else in the family, and we saw her often. Had we not grown up around her, we probably would have been frightened by her appearance. Khala Shaima was born with crooked spine that wiggled through her back like a snake. Although our grandparents had hoped to find a suitor before her shape became too obvious, she was passed over time and again. Families would come to ask about my mother or Khala Zeba, the youngest of sisters, but no one wanted Khala Shaima. With her hunched back and one raised shoulder, she understood early in life that she would not catch anyone's eye and decided not to bother fussing with appearances at all. She let her eyebrows grow in, left those few straight chin hair, and dressed in the same very clothing day in and day out. Instead, she focused her energy on her nieces and nephews and taking care of grandparents as they aged. Khala Shaima supervised everything, making sure we were doing great in school, that we had proper clothing for the winter, and that lice hadn't nested in our hair. She was a safety net for anything our parents might not have been able to do for us, and she was one of the few people who could stand being around Father John. But you had to know Khala Shaima to get her. I mean, really get her. If you didn't know that she had the best intentions at heart, you could be put off by lack of pleasantries in her conversation, by her sharp criticism, or by the doubtful squint in her eyes while she listened to you talk. But if you knew how she'd been spoken to all her life by strangers and family, you wouldn't be surprised. She was good to us girls and always came with candy-laden pockets. Father John would comment nightly that her pockets were the only sweet thing about Khala Shaima. My sister and I would feign patience while we waited for the rustle of chocolate wrappers. When she arrived, I had just returned from the market and in plenty of time to get my share of the sweets.
Shaima, honest to God, you're spoiling these girls. Where are you getting chocolates like these from these days? They can be cheap.
Don't stop a donkey that's not yours.
She fired back. That was another thing about Khala Shaima. Everyone used those old Afghan proverbs, but Khala Shaima could hardly speak without them. It made conversations with her as circuitous as her spine.
Stay out of it and let's let the girls get back to their homework.
We're done with our homework, Khala Shaima Jan, Shala said. We've been working on it all morning.
All morning? Didn't you go to school today?
Shaima's eyebrows furrowed. No, Khala Shaima, we don't go to school anymore, Shala said, averting her eyes since she knew she was throwing Mother John into the fire.
What does that mean, Raisa? Why aren't girls in school?
Mother John lifted her head from the teapot reluctantly.
We had to take them out again.
In God's name, what ridiculous excuse did you come up with this time to keep them from studying? Did a dog bark at them in the street or something?
No, Shaima, don't you think I would much rather have them in school? It's just that they're running into foolishness in the streets. You know how boys can be. And while their father is just not happy to send them out so they can be toyed with by the neighborhood boys, I don't blame him, really. You know, it's only been a year that the girls aren't even able to walk in the streets. Maybe it's just too soon.
Too soon? How about too late? They should have been going to school all this time, but they haven't. Imagine how far behind they are, and now that they can catch up, you're going to keep them at home to scrub floors? There will always be idiots in the streets saying all kind of things and giving all kind of looks. You can believe that. If you hold these girls back for that, you're no better than Taliban who closed their schools.
Shala and Parveen shot each other looks.
Then what am I supposed to do? Arif's cousin Hasib told him that.
Hasib, that moron who's dumber than the Russian tank? You're making decisions for your children based on something Hasib said? Sister, I thought more of you.
Mother John huffed in frustration and rubbed her temples.
Then you stay here till Arif gets home and you tell him yourself what you think we should do.
Did I say I was leaving?
Mother Shaima said coldly. She propped a pillow behind her uneven back and leaned against the wall. We braced ourselves. Father John hated dealing with Khala Shaima's intrusion, and he was just as blunt as she was about it.
You're a fool to think these girls are better off rotting in this home instead of learning something in school.
You never went to school. See how well you turned out.
Father John said, pettishly.
I've got a lot more sense than you, Engineer Sahib.
A low blow. Father John had wanted to major in engineering when he finished high school, but his marks didn't make the cut. Instead, he took some general classes for 1 semester, then dropped out to start working. He had a shop where he fixed old electronics. Though he was pretty good at what he did, he was still bitter about not making it as an engineer, a highly regarded title for Afghans.
Damn you, Shaima. Get out of my house. They're my daughters. I don't need to listen to a cripple to tell me what I should do with them.
Well, this cripple has an idea that may solve all your problems. Let you keep your precious pride while the girls can get back to school.
Forget it. Just get out so I don't have to look at your face anymore. Raisa, where's my food?
Correction.
Raisa, where the hell is my food?
What's your idea, Shaima?
Father John jumped in, eager to hear what she had to say. She did respect her sister ultimately. More often than not, Shaima was right. She hurriedly fixed a plate of food and brought it over to Father John, who was now staring out the window blankly.
Raisa, don't you remember the story our grandmother told us? Remember, Bibi Shakiba?
Oh, her. Yeah. But how does that help the girls?
She became what her family needed. She became what the king needed.
The king.
Father John scoffed.
Your stories get crazier every time you open your ugly mouth.
Father Shaima ignored his comment. She had heard much worse.
Do you really think that this would work for us too?
The girls need a brother.
Father John looked away and sighed with disappointment. Her failure to bear a son had been a sore spot since Shala's birth. She had not anticipated that it would be brought to everyone's attention again tonight. She avoided Father John's eyes.
That's what you came here to tell me? That we need a son? Don't you think I know that? If your sister were a better wife, then maybe I would have had one.
Quit jabbering. Let me finish.
But she didn't finish. She only started the night Khala Shaima started a story of my great-great-grandmother, Shakiba. A story that my sister and I had never before heard. A story that transformed me. That's the end of chapter 1. I will see you guys for chapter 2. Bye!